Director. I still call you General because my dad was in the military, so if you don't mind. And Ritma, thank you for the lovely words you were felicitating me with. Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. And I stand here as a teacher and not as an ambassador. So I look at you as the next generation. And I take great pride in talking to you and having a dialogue with you. And thank you very much indeed for inviting me here, because for me, being a diplomat is a kind of antithesis. My natural niche is the academia, and to be within the walls of this kind of building is my natural habitat. So thank you very much again. And what I'm planning to discuss is I have about 25 minutes, I understand, and I'll try to go through the slides with you. And the whole thing is about how we turn situations around. What you see on the screen is a very beautiful picture, what General was talking about, the lonely planet and all the nice things that have been told about Sri Lanka. And what we experienced over 3 decades and what we are experiencing now. And what is your input as young people, as the next generation? How do we look at a sustainable world? I was Director General of all the World Heritage Sites for 3 years, and during that period the former President, in fact, invited me to take over the Sustainable Tourism Plan. We had a reason, because where I'm concerned, we had to get off the ivory tower pronto, because our country was going through such a bad patch. We couldn't stay there and be complacent about what was going on around us, and we had to redefine our role, our responsibility towards the world, the country, the next generation especially, and try to understand what our position is and what our social responsibility is. And in doing so, we had to look at our own activities, our own specialization, and try to see what we can do. I was trained as a historian archaeologist, and largely now we have redefined the whole area as heritage. And in doing so, what could I contribute to a country that was going through all this? And as you know, Sri Lanka was going through this. It was a bloody carnage. I don't like to talk about this. None of us want to talk about that, because by the time you leave the house in the morning, you do not know whether you will come back. That was the reality. And it was, again, things like this we had to experience, the tsunami. I mean, our bottom was knocked off. Socially, people were dislocated. Mentally, we were almost deranged. And how do we retrieve a society that has gone through all this? So we had to redefine our own roles and try to understand how we have remedial strategies. I know things happen in this country, but not at this, even a micro scale of what happened in Sri Lanka. It is unbelievable. And this is why we take so much of pride. After the war was over in 2009, we bounced back with such force. I'm sure some of you ladies and gentlemen may have gone to Sri Lanka before the war ended, and now obviously Sri Lanka. It's one of the best 10 destinations now to visit. And it's fantastic. I do miss it because I'm stuck here in New Delhi, and I'm not complaining, but to see my friends enjoying at the beach or in the hills is something which I really crib about. And so we had to redefine all these situations and try to see how we can have a multiplier situation. For instance, if you take heritage, how do you go in for different aspects of heritage? Very often when you talk about heritage, when you look about heritage, it will be the sculptured art or archaeology or something like that. No, it's about people, people to people connectivity you're talking about. You're talking about the heritage manager who is a professional, but not a heartless professional, but he's keeping about people's ideas, their passions, their ideas, their wantings. All these things are incorporated in that. And this is what we actually talk about, the humanness of our professionalism, which is very important. Because you get into business schools or because you get into the private sector or if you're looking things at the mechanical area, don't forget that you're ultimately dealing with human beings. So this is why I've been a great promoter of the liberal arts, where you promote a good balance, a healthy balance between the sciences and the arts, so that you have a good heart and mind and you get great success. When I was actually having a discussion at the setting up a liberal arts school in Pakistan with the Harvard University and the Aga Khan Foundation, there was this the corporate sector really pitched into that, and one of the very interesting things that really struck my mind was that they said, sure enough, we need people who are damn good in IT, business mind, all these things. But we need people with imagination. Now to do that, there's no point just having a nerd who's a technocrat, who doesn't have imagination. We need cultured nerds. That's what the business crowd do. And they pumped in a lot of money for the balance of the social arts and sciences in the liberal arts schools, and I think this is the track we have to take to. We cannot forget our traditions, we can't forget our heritage, because we have to learn from history. And this is exactly the way we went on. One of the first things we have to do, I'm trying to give not a lecture on archaeology, but also try to see how we can actually situate. Contextualization is very important, and how Sri Lanka is located, because how Sri Lanka in the middle of the Indian Ocean ring, with the Emerald Island, as you see, in the sat image, and itself it shows this little island has its variations. And these variations are important when it comes to tourism and various other aspects. How do you also respect diversity? When it comes to your own work, in your own mechanical work, look at diversity as a catchword. It's very important in anything. Looking at Sri Lanka, the characterization of the island is this. This is the personality of the little island. What it is, how the world systems converge on this little island, and what it represents to the world. It's multi-religious, multicultural diversity which have to respect. People have to respect each other. And that is the personality of the island, what you see, that has been exactly represented in this writing. Our diversity is represented not only in people, but also in the natural habitat. So we have various races, language groups, religious groups, all these things happening in this little island. There's 20 million people who are there in that small island, the size of Kerala. And we also have biodiversity, nature, which have been marketing so well, and it's attracted people to this. So if you do a track from the coastal area, the coast, you go into the middle range hills of the plains, you go to the low hills of Sri Lanka, and then also a familiar setting like your tea gardens in the north in Assam or elsewhere in Darjeeling or elsewhere. and also the biodiversity which is so important to our rainforest. With all these are aspects of our tourism scenario. And our traditional exports were the spices and gems. Now coming to tourism per se, we had a status quo about rapid visits to heritage sites, leisure activities and ecotourism, higher than religious tourism. Now this was the standard traditional tourism plan we had in our country. But we had to alter this whole pattern by understanding a new market, a new product and a strategic planning in this whole arena. And to do this, especially when the war was ending, we had to redefine our whole scenario about markets, about the kind of taste people have, what kind of market you're attracting. And doing that, we were trying to see what our product, what's the value-added product we are trying to give. What is the purchasing power of the people who will come here in the post-war situation or post-tsunami situation? What kind of accessibility are we giving in this market? And what is the ground reality of this situation? So that, all these things work in a collective about infrastructure development, about job orientation. So tourism, what I'm talking about is not a standalone policy, but it's a collated item that you are throwing at the market and throwing at the people, you are throwing at the customer, consumer and everybody. So it's not a singular thing you are looking at. If you are looking at the ground situation, you are looking at infrastructure development, safety, security reasons. This whole thing becomes a viable operation and an essential operation for us. Then you look at the income status of the people. We are looking at now at the backpack tourists. Okay, let them come in, but we are looking at the up-end tourists. And often these tourists, not because they are rich, we have actually run a lot of programs, talking to these people, surveys. Very often these people are extremely sensitive and these people are very cultured. How they reach out to people in the areas. So that is very important. What kind of audience, what kind of market, their income status, look at the education. They don't come in large groups, some of them come, spend a lot of money actually. Just to have a meditation session in Kandy, in the hills, just for maybe 3 days, and they'll pay about $10,000 for that. So these are hidden agendas or hidden areas we have to come. Or walk to us within the university, having a session with the university dons. This is a huge thing. And we just tried this, and the amount of money these people were willing to give for the goods we produce. It's not a simple dictum about demand and supply, but it was a very humane aspect how people come and enjoy. Sitting in the Buddhist temples and talking to the Buddhist monks. And they have made massive donations to these temples. They have actually donated money to the schools run by these temples. So there is a good turnout for the social return as well. Aesthetic value and sensitivity. Some of these tourists who like to come and sit with the traditional craftspeople in the village, live their lives, and these people are multi-millionaires. These are guys who get into their private jet and go to Bermuda to play golf. That's the kind of market I'm talking about. And they are very educated. And the kind of selection they make. Very often, I'm a consultant to at least 4 countries for tourism plans. And when the up-end tourists are selecting their destination, they look at what are the best countries have best practice and also how much of safety, not personal safety, because some of those guys enjoy what I call hot experience. One of the persons said, my greatest experience in life has been I was crawling when the Khmer Rouge was firing over my head and then the bullets were whisking past my head, and that was a great experience. He was willing to pay with his life and money. But here we are talking about selection you're making is how many countries have World Heritage Sites? Within that, how much of countries have World Heritage Site that has solar energy, zero carbon effect to protect your sites? Because this belongs to the world and the next generation and the next world. So that is the kind of premium these people put on that. So this is something what you have to keep in mind. It's just not telling, hey, let's have a bus loaded of tourists coming, let's plan this out with some kind of tour operator and do it. No, there's a greater philosophy in this and greater commitment in this. Also, then you are looking at the strategic plan for alternative tourism. You are looking at alternative tourism, not at the run-on mill. So you are having towards a knowledge-based and value-added tourism action plan. The kind of things I was talking about. Sustainable tourism action plan. How do you give a package? What kind of package do you give? Not the fanciful things or romanticizing things, but actually giving the real picture and absorbing those people into that tourism niche you're presenting. That's a critical factor. How do you make them a stakeholder? It's not by just taking their money, but also making them a lifelong experience. And how we redefine heritage, I'll come back to that. And then making heritage tourism an operational factor, what we've been doing. So one of the things we actually did was the action plan, internalized tourism, externalized tourism, that you have the externalized tourism plans in action, getting tourists to get interested, and once you come, you have this whole ground plan laid out for these guys to go forward and also becoming stakeholders. They become stakeholders of you, just a market holder. And then also very important that we have the resource plan development going on. Very critical. And I think I circulated a paper before I came, and I hope we all have read that. And the infrastructure development. Now this is the package we had to develop when we were looking at heritage plans. And how do we redefine heritage? This is critically important for people because people have not understood heritage. They think it's dancing or some kind of other thing, fancy thing. No, it's much more complex. Heritage includes culture. It is very important, not what you see as culture, everything what to put as culture. Knowledge from the past is extremely critical. How we draw the past, learning from the past without being big-headed about saying, oh, we know everything because we are in the modern world. No, there's a hell of a lot you can learn from the past. Environment is critical. Without the environment, you cannot understand what you are and what you be. And the next generation, it's you guys. Without you guys, none of this will work because you are the primary stakeholders and who will carry out the baton to the next period and the next level. So, this is how we redefined heritage in 2007 in Sri Lanka. And I'll quickly go through my slides now. Sri Lanka has several World Heritage Sites. Anuradhapura goes all the way back to 5000 BC and has the most stunning stupas. Some of the stupas are sites of the pyramids of Giza. Jaiuria. Have any of you gone to Sri Lanka, visited? There's one? I don't believe it. Come on, okay, next please, I'm sure the college will make a trip right on. This is Jaiuria. This is an unbelievable place, a planned out garden complex of the rock. And Polonnaru, which is one of the best Hindu and Buddhist synergy sites to see, and the only place in the world that has Shaivite and Vaishnavite sites together in the same complex. And the great rock cave temple of Dambulla, which is the most stunning place for meditation if you want to take that, and where I live in Kandy, which is in the hills. The plan we did was with the Netherlands government, a revitalized program in Gaul, Dutch fort, the new vision plan for sustainable tourism. Now, just to cut it short, colonial period in Sri Lanka extends from about 1505 to about 1948 when and the Portuguese came first, and it was the Dutch and the British. And the Dutch actually expelled the Portuguese in 1684, and after that they actually went on to a massive scale of mercantile application in Sri Lanka. This is the first port of call, which is in the southern tip of Sri Lanka. And this is the plan of the old fort of Galle. And what was important of Galle was that the strategic location, World Heritage Site, seascape and landscape interface, it's a port city, and the cultural diversity of this site. So we selected that as a development strategy for this particular site. And what we developed were the 4 primary areas of common cultural heritage cooperation, or what you see on the board now, and areas, and especially remember maritime archaeology, and this is something what India can actually develop for, especially for heritage tourism. And of course the stakeholders and the kind of money we got, and I'll quickly show you the achievements of what we had, because this is critical how we turn from a non-situation to a real situation. And this is the World Heritage Site of Galle. You can see it's a beautiful site. It's a dream site actually for you to go and live. It's in the plan of a western city like Pondicherry, if you are familiar with Pondicherry. A grid plan, beautiful place to spend your vacation. I'm also marketing your winter vacation in Sri Lanka, so please take notes. And the development of infrastructure. After the war, we hardly had roads left, and these are the highways that came up within 5 years. Quite a few highways have come up in Sri Lanka. This is the quality of movement we set in motion for various areas, and some of the roads and the highways leading to Galle. This was what is left of Galle after the tsunami, the complete destruction of this kind of thing. Apart from the war, we had the other enemy of the tsunami. And this is the revitalization of the Galle Stadium, but you have your teams going and playing there these days. And this is the whole Galle plan, what we revitalized. One of the first things we did was the revitalization of ancient monuments, especially the Dutch monuments. And I'm very proud that my teams won the Pacific Heritage Award. This is on the left-hand side, you see that the old monuments, and this is the revitalized program of this Dutch Reformed Church. It's a fantastic monument. In fact, the Colombo Philharmonic Orchestra has an annual musical sessions there, which is great. This is the internal one. We had great acoustics down there, and the annual literary festival, like the Jaipur Literary Festival, takes place there. And this is the Galle Fort. It's one of the largest forts in Asia constructed by Dutch. And on the left you can see the process being done of the conservation, and the right you find the reconservation. And this is what the fort looked like when we start the conservation, before the conservation, and this is the concert building. These all have a value added tag. Because for each one we charge $1 ticket when tourists come. South regions have a half ticket, by the way, so don't worry about that. But other tourists have to pay a full-fledged $1 ticket. At Srilanka, that rock, we net about $10,000 to $15,000 a day. That is the kind of thrust we had about the marketing strategies we played for revitalization of our tourism plan. And this is how we got the preconceived residents to the, you can see the entrance to the warehouse, and that is the entrance now. And this is the typically British administrative office, you will see before the conservation, and this is what we found after the conservation was done. And that is one of our greatest achievements of the Maritime Archaeology Museum, which is one of the big crowd pullers. And this is the interior of the Maritime Museum. Representation of the Dutch period, the British and the Portuguese period. And this is one of the salvage ships we had from the Dutch, the Allen Star, the Rising Star. And this is after the tsunami hammered this whole section of the fort. And that is the revitalization of the early section we have conserved. And to each of these places the tourists go, and they follow the map. And some of them coming from Holland, the Western countries, Portugal, all these places, and of course we charge good money. And this is the ramparts of the tsunami conservation. And this is the internal thing what we did. I mean, it's so romantic. You go back to a different world altogether in Goa. It's a medieval city settings. We redid the whole thing, conserved streets. And this is the Dutch hospital, how it looked like before the war ended, and this is what it looked like after we did the conservation. I'm so proud of my young architects and archaeologists who did this, really. I mean, professionally, you feel very good that you have a next generation who carry this kind of items, and you have all this fancy, high-paying restaurants, various other aspects. And these are old Dutch houses that have been transformed into heritage hotels. Each of these rooms charge about $1,500 to $2,000 a night, and they are all marketed. And this is a kind of an old house or manor of one of the rich Dutch period person who has, these kind of houses go into, I mean, you charge about $10,000 for a week or something like that or more per person to occupy. And also how this has a kickback into architecture. This is one of the best hotels in Gaul, and how they have used the wrought iron sculpture of the Portuguese in battle. I'll just take 5 minutes also. And how it represents history in the hotels, and how the tourists enjoy that kind of new art. Then we look into the outer parameter. This is the island of Count de Marny, a French person who actually established this island resort in the last century, and this is one of the best marketed centers near Gaul. For the next 3 years this has been booked, and it's an amazing place. And around Gaul you have whale and dolphin watching. So what we did was brought all this into this package. It's just not walking around and seeing the monument, but you offer so many multiple areas. That's why I talked about a multiplier situation in this. You have dolphin watching where you can just go very close, or you want the whale watching now. It is fantastic. We have on both sides of the island this kind of attractions. We also have the coral gardens very close to Gaul, beautiful coral gardens. And all have the turtle hatchery. These are all the nature stuff people get extremely attracted. These are just lying there, and now we have started making use of this kind of marketing. And you get a lot of diving down in the night, so a lot of people enjoy this. And the biodiversity area near Gaul, which is a very important one, is part of the Ramayana tradition also, that Hanuman actually took a lot of herbs from this place. Revitalization of crops and empowerment of craftspeople is another area we have locked on to the whole tourism plan. And also supporting traditional gem cutting, which is a very important traditional craft in Gaul. And what the Portuguese gifted, this kind of lace weaving, it's a beautiful craft which has been continued by the ladies in this area, and they make a lot of money now from tourism. And also the traditional fishing, I don't think you've seen this anywhere in South Asia, and it's the still fishing you get in Sri Lanka, a very great attraction for tourism. And also the marine archaeology unit, what we started. We actually charge about $100 for a dip to go and explore amongst the sunken ships in the Gaul harbor. There are so many sunken ships, you can see the vessels here. And one of the high points of Gaul is the annual literary fest, what we have, just like in the Rajasthan literary fest. You can see one of your members of parliament here, Shashi Tharoor is there, and some of the celebrities who had actually come there. It's a great event actually. You have the beach carnivals going on during the same period along with this. Up to about 30 to 40 kilos both to the north and south is completely booked. And it's a massive festive feat that you have. So you have people like Vidal and Vikram Seth and all these individuals, and a lot of the young people actually come and enjoy this. And that's the kind of harvesting of knowledge we have with the Lit Festival, and how we combine. One of the best things that happened in Gaul was the fusion of the East and West, what Rabindranath Tagore was talking about. Without being parochial about your own culture, without keeping away other cultures. As an island society, we cannot live alone. We have to be realistic that we are part of the larger world. And this is exactly how the chamber music is done at the church I showed you earlier. And the dual parentage that has given us as a gift, and how we have made use of that. So what I want to tell you in a nutshell is, I would have actually should have done a 1-hour lecture on this with detail, but I think with the images, I think I get the message to you that we cannot have a standalone policy in anything, any discipline, anything what we do, because we are all shareholders of this world, this environment, and the next generation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your indulgence.